armed with an AR-15 rifle, possibly suffering from a gunshot wound.
An LAPD report states the off-duty federal officer confronted Porter, identified himself as law enforcement, and claims Porter fired toward him.
America, my favorite part of this entire story is when Keith Porter's own family member admits he was firing a rifle into the air and then pointed it at an ICE agent. But somehow it's still being called a murder by BLM and protesters.
Authorities say he had been shooting gunshots in celebration outside of his apartment on New Year's Eve when an off-duty ICE agent responded and killed him.
So let me get this straight. A man fires a gun in an apartment complex, points the gun at an off-duty federal officer, gets shot. I don't see the problem here. Firing a gun in the air in California is illegal and a felony.
Police commission needs to A, name the murderer, B, make arrest, and C, send it to the DA for conviction.
And of course, BLM is on the scene. Black lives only matter when it's convenient. What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me show you how Keith Porter's own family contradicts their narrative while protesters ignore the actual facts. As always, let me start with what Keith Porter's own family admits happens, because this destroys their entire innocent victim narrative. His mother confirms that he was firing a rifle, an AR-15 style rifle, into the air on New Year's Eve.
His only mistake was thinking that he was free enough to do it here.
No, you idiot. His mistake was firing a rifle in an apartment complex and pointing it at a federal officer, or any person for that matter. This is not a freedom issue. That's a felony.
And to the people that think it was a stupid act, it's the same stupid act that many of us have done time and time again.
It's the same stupid act that many of us have done time and time again. Really? You have fired an AR-15 style rifle into the air in a residential apartment complex or neighborhood? That's normal?
But according to an LAPD report, the off-duty agent heard gunshots, confronted Porter, identified himself as law enforcement, and claims Porter shot towards him, prompting the agent to fire back.
But here's what the family won't acknowledge. An off-duty federal agent can arrest somebody or use deadly force under specific conditions. When they witness a federal crime or felony, they have the same authority as any citizen to intervene. And when somebody points a gun at them, they have the right to defend themselves. This is not complicated. Porter was committing a felony. He pointed a weapon at a federal officer, and the officer defended himself. That's not murder. That's self-defense. Now let me break down the law that Keith Porter was violating, because this absolutely matters. Firing a gun into the air in California is a felony, and it's considered willful discharge in a grossly negligent manner. The penalties for this: prison time, and if it kills someone, it can lead to murder charges. Porter was already committing a serious felony before he ever pointed a gun at an officer.
What should have been a simple arrest and possible a citation has turned into a death sentence.
The family attorney claims this should have been a simple arrest and possible citation. A citation for firing an AR-15 in a residential area. That's a felony, not a traffic ticket. And here's what makes this argument even more absurd. The attorney admits Porter should have been arrested, so the officer was justified in confronting him. But when Porter pointed the gun at the officer, suddenly the officer is supposed to just accept being shot at. The attorney says the officer should have stayed at his apartment and called LAPD. But that's not how the law works. Off-duty federal officers have the authority to intervene when they witness felonies, and they have the right to defend themselves when threatened. Now, obviously, we got to talk about BLM showing up to the vigil.
Police lie, and it's disgusting the way in which they assassinate Black life.
Because this exposes their entire operation. Black lives matter, but only when it fits their narrative.
Were this anyone else, there would have been an arrest. You don't get to just murder people because you don't like what they're doing or how they're celebrating. We want him named, we want him arrested, and we want him prosecuted. We also want ICE out of LA.
Over 100 people at the vigil calling for investigation. But where is this energy for the Black lives that are homeless in LA? Where is this energy for Black veterans who can't get housing? Where is this energy for Black communities destroyed by drugs? BLM only shows up when they can blame police or federal agents. They don't show up to help Black communities actually improve. They don't show up to address the real problems killing killing Black Americans every day.
Took our loved one from us. You murdered our loved one, and it's not fair. It's not right.
They're calling this murder while ignoring the circumstances. Porter fired a rifle in a residential area. He pointed it at a federal officer, but Black Lives Matter wants you to focus on the officer's response, not Porter's actions. Where is this energy for the Palisade victims who got defrauded out of donations? Where is the energy for the homeless crisis in LA? Where is this energy for actual problems in the community of Los Angeles? Black Lives Matter is an absolute joke. They show up for photo ops and media attention, but they don't actually help Black lives. Notice the limited coverage on this particular story compared to the Renee Good situation in Minnesota. Why? Because the Keith Porter story doesn't fit the mainstream liberal media narrative. Let's be honest, Renee Good, mother, white, liberal, driving through an ICE agent. That's a sympathetic victim story that fits the media's narrative. Keith Porter, Black, was firing an AR-15 in an apartment complex and pointed it at a federal officer. It's kind of harder to spin.
Family members and activists are demanding answers after a man was shot and killed by an off-duty ICE officer in Northridge.
The family and activists are demanding answers and transparency, but the answers are already crystal clear. Porter was committing a felony. He pointed a weapon at a federal officer. The officer defended himself. The media already knows this story is not going to work for their anti-ICE narrative, so they give it limited coverage and hope it goes away. Meanwhile, they're still talking about Renee Good because this story fits what they want to push. This is how media manipulation works. They amplify stories that support their narrative and bury stories that contradict it. Keith Porter's own family admitting he'd fired at an officer. That's inconvenient. So obviously it's going to get minimal coverage.
Protesters marched across downtown LA this afternoon. That protest was one of many across the country today amid growing immigration tensions across the country.
They're blaming Trump's reckless agenda, but Trump didn't make Keith Porter file a rifle or Renee Good attempt to run over an ICE agent.
Thousands of people came together to really show people power and to basically say that hands off Venezuela, to say that we don't stand for a war for oil, and that people need to come together to defend immigrant rights.
Defending immigrant rights, Renee Good was a sacrificial lamb to divert from the massive fraud that's happening in Minnesota. She jumped in front of ICE agents to protect the Somalia community that don't give a damn about her.
And it's kind of scary to think that it could happen to any one of us, right? Because the argument before was, hey, like, they're not attacking U.S. citizens, but that's kind of like falling short now.
This is the same pattern we see at every police shooting. Ignore the suspect's actions, focus only on the officer's response, and claim that everybody's at risk. This is selective outrage designed to push political narratives. They don't actually care about Black lives or Renee Good. They just want to push a particular agenda. They care about blaming police, blaming federal agents, blaming ICE.
People are angry. They are furious, and people don't want to let this go.
If BLM actually cared, if these protesters actually cared, they'd be addressing actual problems, addressing homelessness, gang violence, violenceness in the community, drug addiction, unemployment. But they're at vigils for people who pointed guns at officers, trying to run over federal officers. It's the same weak old playbook. America, Keith Porter's own family admits he was firing an AR-15 in a residential apartment complex. That is a felony under California law that carries some prison time. An off-duty federal agent witnessed the crime, confronted him, and defended himself when Porter pointed the weapon at him. But BLM, of course, wants you to believe that it's a murder. They want you to ignore Porter's actions and focus only on the officer. They want you to believe anybody could be next, even though this only happens when you point guns or try to run over federal agents. No amount of protests, no amount of Black Lives Matter representatives can change those particular facts. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.